Dear Dhamma friends, today is our 11th day in our retreat. It's the time for our day's Dhamma talk. May everyone give the consent with 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Thanha chayang bhikkave king nidana king samudaya king jatika king abhavati ti. Dear Dhamma friends, after yesterday's talk, we have taken this Maha Sankhaya Sutta and try to trace backward, and we found this Thanha, the desire is the single cause, if someone to pinpoint, for this all the 4 kinds of nutriments, and therefore if someone is aware of it, if someone is in a position to see the relationship between the Thanha and these 4 nutriments, then only one can have effective training or effective restrainment, and therefore observation is first in the theoretical way and then in a deductive way, and the last under one's very nose is very important. So therefore one can see the beginning of the suffering with the help of this very particular cause, the desire, as well as one can find the end of suffering also by properly handling this Thanha. And it is very famous, as I mentioned yesterday, whenever the Buddha going to give the single cause for this suffering, the Thanha is the one pointed. But today's the Buddha is still tracing the line backward. He says, Thanha chayam bhikkave, king nidana, king samudaya, king jatika, king abhava. And this craving has what as its source, as its origin, but is from where it born and produced. So if you take the Thanha, so now one can theoretically draw backward, step back and see what is the source of, what is the origin, from where does it born and produced that particular Thanha. And that is the way the Buddha find the way towards the Vedana or feelings. It says, Thanha chayam bhikkave vedana nidana, vedana samudaya, vedana jatika, vedana abhava. The feeling as the source, feeling as the origin, feeling as the birthplace and the source for the production of this Thanha. So if someone can't understand or tackle Thanha as such, it is still, there's a hope, one can still go backward and be aware of one's own feelings, and by understanding the feeling, still there's a hope one to start this journey. As far as the feelings are concerned, it come under one of the aggregates, so therefore from there also it is significant. By the way that the Buddha explained, in the early part of the sutta he mentioned, if someone knows what is the origin of these 5 aggregates, he or she will understand each and every one come into being due to its due causes. By understanding the due cause, proximate cause or nutriment, and it is one way to see way out, that is to say, whenever the proximate cause nutriment ceases to exist, this each and every aggregates ceases to exist. In that sense also, and even now for the second time in this place also, the feeling becomes one of the important factor, one of the important aggregate, one of the important mental factor one can deal with. This is, instead of giving one course and one path, why it is being traced backward and giving each and every may be a theoretical question, but in practice or in reality, our personality traits, our character traits are quite different. And therefore, whenever someone is with the feelings or he is having that aesthetic kind of or understanding the world with so much of attachment towards a feeling, that particular person may find it is difficult to deal attachment or the desire as such as a big issue. But if he or she may understand the relationship between the feeling and therefore that kind of people, these feelings will be more addressing, more appealing, so therefore there's a kind of a way out, not to lose the heart, but to find another way. So therefore, from the theoretical point of view, as well as from the practical point of view, meditators must have a certain background information, book knowledge, theory knowledge regarding this feeling. And at the first place, we can say, each and every being is searching the happiness, searching the whatever it may be comfortable. That is why the Western psychology understands this as the pleasure principle. So therefore Buddha also, it says, everything converges to this pleasure principle. So therefore when and where we are defining Thanha, the desire, it is for some people desire for the pleasurable feeling. For them, more than just like Thanha, they can understand one's own desire for the pleasurable feeling. So therefore, the world throughout, not limited to the animal, the human, even the animals, even the Deva and Brahma, and everyone is always searching about this pleasure. And therefore, they are so busy, very inquisitive to increase in the pleasure. But if you boil down everything, it says, more and more you try to increase the pleasure, ultimately you end up with the pain. So it is very paradoxical. So therefore it says, more and more you have an appointment with pleasure, each and every appointment end up with this disappointment. So therefore, it says from the Western point of view, during the time of our life, we individually, each of us individually, sorting out a kind of a very complex formula. It's a very long one, so we are working day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, thought moment by thought moment, our complex formula working it out. So we find to the deathbed, it is not being sorted out, but at the deathbed, everyone get the answer equal, that is zero. Only at the deathbed he comes to know whatever the ways and means, whatever the creative thinking, end up with zero. That means death means everything multiplied by zero. Anything multiplied by zero is zero. So it is too late by that time to know how much we are crafty, how much we are productive, how much we have the quick wit, how much we have the understanding. Accordingly, we are work out this formula. It's a very complex one. But if we know at the end, everyone desperately face the death, that says that at the death, everyone is unsatisfactory. The vacuum is there. No one died satisfied. Not in this generation, even the early generation, whatever it may be you are tracing back, no one died satisfied. So that means Vedana is never fulfilling. It is, say, you are going to fulfill a cane basket with water. So much you are going to pour, at last you find nothing. So therefore, if we do not have that kind of basic instructions or basic understanding or preparedness, you may think instead of listening, instead of meditating, best thing is to earn something to maximize the pleasure. So therefore learning and meditation, everything is a wastage of time. Instead, why should not we go ahead and earn something to increase the pleasure? But if someone knows everything is going to end up with that kind of a disappointment, one has to just wait and see, to understand what is happening. In that sense, the Buddha never put the pleasure as in front. He fixed the first truth as the pain, dukkha satya, that is unsatisfactoriness. The pain as the truth. That's the prevailing thing. So therefore, basically, not limited to this time, during the time of contemporary time of the Buddha, Buddha recognized many people accused him as a nihilist, looking the pessimistic side of the world, negative, not creative, not productive, and passive, callous. There's a number of words, standard words, they used to accuse the Buddha, thinking that everyone is productive, everyone is asking for pleasure, everyone is asking to be hurry up and go, but the Buddha says, just wait and see who earned it, who achieved it. No one. So therefore, whatever the hurriedness, whatever you are jumping, going to give at last disappointment. So therefore, understand the prevailing prevalence of the suffering, but many are not happy. But when and where the life disasters, calamities, misfortune going to happen, then everyone has to understand these things are uncontrollable, they are bound to happen. And Buddha says, leave aside all the accidents or the natural calamities or any kind of thing. Everyone is, day by day, reaching the old age. When you are reaching the old age, you understand that your controllability of your faculties are slowly fading off. And each and everyone going to meet up with sicknesses. Whenever you come up, met up with sicknesses, you can understand how is your pleasure-seeking principle. Pleasure principle, it becomes completely negative and end up with the death. So the Buddha recognized jara, that means old age, vyadi, sickness, marana, the death, they are samsaric diseases. Whatever the medical science going to have any discovery, they can't make any single advancement towards this jara, vyadi, marana. No one can make sure that your aging can be stopped. We can make sure that one can't fall into sickness or one can avoid death. So all these is a classic mileposts on the path. So therefore the Buddha says, of course, due to the urgency and due to the fear and due to the uncertainty, we are searching ways and means, but the mention it is utter lost. No way out, but only thing is accepting that very thing. So that very invitation itself, majority tend to label it as nihilism. or backwardness, or unproductive, negative. So therefore, when and where this feeling as a subject going to start, we have to understand what our common sense, and despite all kind of this truth, we are always chasing behind the pleasure seeking. The Buddha says, one has to accept as a fact. Each and everyone is finding his or her way for the pleasure. So first and foremost, you have to understand its nature. That for the worldly beings, there are two kinds of pleasures. One thing is materialistic pleasure. The second one is immaterial kind of pleasure. The physics, the science, and the worldly knowledges are always advancing towards this materialistic or material pleasure. That is called amisha vedana, amisha sukha. For that, you are always not happy with what you have seen. You are always searching someone to see variety of entertainment, new things. So therefore, satisfying the eye with the visual objects. So it is kind of a materialistic pleasure. The second thing is the sounds, different kind of sounds. We know fairly what does it mean by, but still our eardrum is not happy with what you have listened, but we are always listening more and more in order to satisfy the ear, and the nose with smells, the tongue with different tastes, and the body with different comforts, and the mind with pet ideas. So it is keep on doing. So whatever it happens, whatever the facets you are going to change, it is never-ending thing. So it is called named as a materialistic pleasure. And the Buddha indicates, in this sense, there is no difference between the human and the other animals. Each and everyone is searching, so therefore this is a must, but it's very lowly kind of materialistic pleasure. So therefore, if you are going to spend the whole day, whole life, whole year only for the materialistic pleasure, even then you are going to end up with these disappointments. But ultimately the way you are searching this pleasure matters to the life to come, if you are believing life after the life. And today's ways and means decides your tomorrow's pleasure. If you are going to earn this materialistic pleasure with the unjust or with the unnatural or disturbing others, definitely you are going to end up with suffering. So therefore, even though we should have basic needs and basic amount of materialistic pleasure, you have to take care about what is the consequences will be. For that, you have to be religious, you have to be spiritual, and that spirituality is going to give a kind of a pleasure that is called immaterial kind of pleasure. So, if someone can't understand the difference between the materialistic pleasure and immaterial pleasure, and if he do not find any importance between these two, that means that particular person, even though he is a human, no difference between other animals. Exactly the way together, just like an animal. Therefore, when and where human being using its inquiring mind, inquisitive nature, he or she, if come across that material pleasure is a must and it's a preliminary thing, but we must not get limited with that materialistic pleasure. Instead, we have to think about the immaterial, that is to say, religious kind of thing, or spiritual kind of thing. So that is how development happen within the life. For that, the Buddha says, you must have your faculties mature enough to understand these faculties are never appeasing, never satisfying. So therefore you have to not only merely satisfying your ear, eye, nose, tongue, body, etc. But you must be careful about the ways and means that you are going to satisfy. In that sense, the religious and the spiritual bodies giving you some guidelines. For that, this is, if you are following these guidelines, not only the materialistic pleasure, instead you can have immaterial pleasure. So that immaterial pleasure is the one we normally call as concentration. And when and where you get the concentration, you feel the rapture, you feel the pleasure, you feel contentment, and that you never get it from seeing pictures, or it is excelling or far better than the pleasure you get by seeing pictures, hearing sounds, and smelling things, and tasting food, and comfort from the your furniture and your vehicles and kind of thing. So therefore, when and where you go to this immaterial pleasure, there's another window opening in your brain or in your mind. So this is not, of course, limited to Buddha. The Buddha to be, also went through it up to the age 26. He was 29. He was in a princely happiness. And he appointed as the king to be. And he was full of, and his father, knowing the value of this prince, he gave the maximum situation. And I find, in the sense, maybe not little away from the subject, the way the Prince Suddhodana created the world, created the microclimate for Prince Siddhartha, not to show any sick people, not to show any old people, not to show any dead bodies, and just to show all the good part. So that is what the developed countries are doing. They keep all the sick people in the hospital, all the mad people in the asylum, all the old people in the houses for old, and sick people are to the undertakers. When you go to the town, you can see nice girls and boys and cars and clean streets, and you don't feel the God-developed country. No suffering to the external world. So therefore, what the Prince Suddhodana did, as well as what the present day is doing, exactly the same. The world is appeared to be very good. What is wrong with? No sick people, no old people, no dead bodies, but unlucky enough that we have enough drug-addicted people in the towns. When you go there, these things are making the city a little blemish. So this is what the way the elders and the authoritative people going to show this world as something very nice. It's very good. But his Buddha to be, Prince Siddhartha, soon he see the first time a sick person, it was like a shock. He keep on asking the question, what is it, how it is? And ultimately the Channa, he told, you are also subjected to the same. And that was a nightmare. He thought back at the palace, I have all the kind of thing. I never see such a sickness, but this is happening just in front of my eye, and I am also subjected to that. And whenever he see the old people, and he asked the same set of questions, ultimately came to know, even though I am at the prime youth, I am also going to have the same. And whenever he see a carcass, dead body, he ultimately came to know, I am also going to end up with that. And so he was so upset. And the moment he see a recluse, he came to know that particular person has given a thought beforehand, so therefore that is the path I have to take. So we people per day, how many sick people we see? How many dead bodies we see? How many old people we see? Are we contemplate? We never think till it come and knock on your door. And that day only we will say, why me? Whenever your family doctor come and says that there's a fast-growing terminal cancer in your brain, you have only 2 months to live, then only you open your eyes and say, why me? I am such a person, I am a good person, that cancer cannot come for me. I thought there are different people, those who are subject to cancer, not I am. And there are some other people to die, not me. And there are separate people to get old age and sick, not me. So this is how our mind also avoid the situation, escapism, and keep always amused with this temporary pleasure. That pleasure is always materialistic. Instead, if you go and practice just like Buddha to be, and whenever he comes to know this, whenever the mind is free from any object, mind is free of any sign, mind is free of any landmark, then you find a kind of a contentment, kind of happiness, completely free of your eye, ear, nose, tongue and the body. Completely free from visual objects, sound, smell, taste and the contact. And that is possible in this very life. So there you find the highest happiness. You come whenever there is no visual objects, whenever there is no sounds, whenever there is no smell, whenever there is no taste, whenever there is no contact. And being so, how much our mind is pulling us, even from the sitting meditation, even from the walking meditation, even from the retreat too, we have so much of duty, so much of responsibilities, go and do something to see something, hear something, smell something, taste something and feel comfort. And therefore our mind is pulling always, it is to the lowly kind of this materialistic pleasure. So whenever you weigh it, compare it, measure it, you can see how is the desire is working, want to not to lead towards the materialistic pleasure, instead to the materialistic pleasure, and that we call as the knowledge. That very pulling back to the sensuous objects, sensuous pleasure or sensuous gratification is the what we call the knowledge. So we think that it's a wastage of time to just sit on a cushion and wait. It is better to go and have a diploma or degree or something like that, adding into your knowledge, and you will get more and more pleasure. But instead, if you compare the relationship between the materialistic pleasure and immaterial pleasure, easily the meditator can understand when and where you are devoid of visual objects, the light, sounds, smell, taste and the touch, then only this immaterial pleasure happens. And that wholeheartedly you can say as the contentment, as the satisfaction, as the saturation. So, whatever the other ways that you are going to do, it is never come up to that kind of a satisfaction, that kind of a contentment. So therefore, if you are really, really concerned about own well-being, we must reason it out, we must think again and again, contemplate again and again, how to earn this contentment, how to earn this satisfaction, how to earn then saturation which is free from all the materiality. But if you are not putting this situation in this healthy way, or in a productive way, or in a prepared way, whenever you go away from light, sound, smell, taste and touch, for the untrained mind, you feel so lonely. You feel so cornered. You feel so outcasted. You feel so trivial. You feel like something wrong somewhere. So therefore, just mere understanding of the immaterial pleasure itself is something radical. It is something against the grain. So therefore, before talking about the higher things like Nibbana or liberation, one has to understand the difference between this materialistic pleasure and immaterial pleasure. So if I am talking to a people from a pub or in a club, on this type, what will be the response? Can I maintain my talk? No. I'll be kicked off telling that I am talking nonsense. I am destroying their happiness. And I am completely coming from other planet, talking, what is this? So I must thank you people, you are not throwing anything to me. Because you know, with your life experience, this has one or the other, even though it is like a bitter concoction, you have to drink it. There is no other way. So therefore, just try to understand the difference between the material pleasure and immaterial pleasure, and then give a proportional calculation, how many years of your life you have allocated for this materialistic pleasure, how many years for immaterial pleasure. Within a day, away from the retreat, how many hours you are allocating for the materialistic pleasure, how many hours you are allocating for the immaterial pleasure. How much you are teaching your second generation on the materialistic pleasure, how much you are exposing them to the immaterial pleasure. How much in our government constitution, any reference to this immaterial pleasure, and whenever you are going to talk about that, they will be outcasted, telling this specifically the American government constitution is a secular constitution. They are not talking about. And we must be happy to allow at least to have a retreat like this. So we have to see how much against the grain we are going. So more and more you are to go for materialistic pleasure, very critical, crucial, important features are there. Materialistic pleasure start with very justifiable, humble, simple, or in the sense we can say basic needs kind of a state. But when and where you are to acquire, you are hardly find what is the limit. And ultimately it go beyond the limit, and you destroy your mental and physical health, present moment and the future, your health and the others' health. So therefore, the commoners, the normal worldlings, they start with the very justifiable, simple, humble way, but never they can understand how much visual object enough, and beyond that it is too much. How much sound is necessary, and beyond that it is too much. How much smell necessary, and beyond that it is too much. How much food is productive, and beyond that it is destructive. How much the comfortability we need as the basic needs, and for pragmatic value, utility value, and beyond that it is destructive. So you can contemplate, according to the society it is growing, they never know the limits. So the very same thing started as the basic needs, the moment it passed the value, which you do not know, then its very thing become a poison. Ultimately not only destroying you, it is destroying the society. It is destroying the environment. And ultimately everything goes, but by that time you can't stop it. So ultimately very same thing come and trample you and smash you, and ultimately you try to find someone else outside to find fault with. But the Buddha says, no one. But not only that you understand, you have to understand material pleasure. Up to a certain extent, it is a basic need. But what is the threshold value? The critical point, beyond that, it has become too much or destructive, that Putujjana means commoner, never knows. Once you develop mindfulness to a certain extent which is irrevertible, then and there only you will understand, up to this much as a human being I must have. But now I am threat passing, I am stress passing, I am transgressing, I am violating. And that sensitivity is the one we are going to develop on 3 ways. One thing is the moral conduct. Understand the transgressional kind of defilements and not to do or not to transgress them. And then at the obsessional level, the defilement when you sit, how much these pleasure-seeking thoughts and related thoughts of the past and the future come and obsess you and violate you, bewildering you. And even if you reach this immaterial pleasure, which is the state where mind is free of this obsessional, still you can find underneath the tendencies are there. They, for the moment, are not manifested, but they have the potential. When and where the conducive causes happen, it can manifest into the obsessional level. If it is no control, it can transgress. Beyond conflagration can happen. So therefore, this situation, if one understands, what the important part of the Buddha is, you are the very person, there is no second person involved for this game, and when and where it is transgressed, and when and where you have fallen into trouble, then you attribute to other people, other places and other times. So that is what the Sati, the bhikkhu, did it. He did not manage to understand this vijnana. Now we are talking about the feeling, but he was in the vijnana, the consciousness. He thought, I have no control. It is happening, it is in a fast speed, and it is going by life to life. So therefore it is permanent, it is eternal. So many things, this pleasurable feeling also eternal. We can have a eternal paradise. So that is what the religious, most of the religions are going to show. And they are talking about that eternal happiness, kingdom, and therefore he said, be obedient and listen to the God and everything. Ultimately you will be destined to the eternal kingdom. But one of my teachers, he told, they are talking about this eternal heaven or kingdom, and you go to their center. Please don't misunderstand me, I am not in a position to compare religions, but I am just giving an example. If you go to a Hindu temple, you can see yakkas, petas and skulls and weapons and serpents and everything. If you go to other places, you can see crucified person. And they are talking about the eternal kingdom. When you go to there, what are the symbols? Buddha is talking about the truth of suffering. You can see he is always smiling. Always smiling and happy to accept you. It's a full-fledged happiness. So what he's talking about and what he's depicting is completely contradictory. So therefore, if you are with a short-minded and if you are searching a quick pleasure, you will see that eternal happiness or eternal kingdom is much better. Because nothing you have to do, you have to just to be obedient and wait. But the Buddha says, no, you are the person creating this eternal hell, you are the person creating this eternal kingdom, and be mindful here. So presently you may be suffering due to the past karmic forces and the tendencies, but you can slowly understand the feeling then and there, and then you can slowly convert into not to a pleasure, not to the pain, But you have to come out with the new thesis, no pain, no pleasure situation. So there Buddha has to introduce this, the in-between area, the middle part, no frictional part. Otherwise, our understanding on the feeling is always duality, pain and the pleasure. So the best to introduce this subject in the Buddhism as such, or in the theoretical, in the Sutta, the best I would like to recommend is Chullavedalla Sutta. And they are very nicely, and I think it is the best way to give the subject, give the proper proportion. And there was there was a couple, no children, and the husband used to go to the Buddha and often discuss with him, and slowly he became religious. But he was a smart person. He never mentioned to the wife that I am religious. That is exactly I did. In my early part, I never mentioned anyone that I am meditating. If you are going to if you are going to say that you are a meditator, you are a generous person, or you are a virtuous person, or you are a religious person, hell of a problem. So that man also was very lucky. So he was keep on going. He attained the first fruition. And still he was a happy householder. And then slowly he became the second fruition, Sakatagami, and still no problem. And one day he was talking with the Buddha, he came to know the third Maggapada, is Anagami, and his liking and disliking somewhat changed. Then he can't entertain this materialistic pleasure. So late night he went to the house, and my wife came to hug when he's entering into, and he told, don't come close to me. And wife thought something wrong with my husband, maybe thinking about another woman, or something wrong with me. What is this all of a sudden trouble? But anyway, she never made any fuss. She prepared the dinner and let him to take a rest. And next day morning, she went and asked, but anything I have done wrong to you? Why you are disinterested and why your behavior yesterday was quite wrong? Then the husband was thinking how to communicate with. Because you know the Indian, according to the Indian value, females are foolish. Males are wise. Societies that is called Purusha Pradhana. There is everything run by the males, and they are the rulers, they are the people, everything, and they consider housewives just to be at home, cook food and do the rest, and that's all. So therefore this particular husband also in the same mental setup. He never thought that he can convince his wife. The change happened. Then he told, I am sorry, you have not done anything mistake. Then she asked, are you interested in any woman? What is this even? No, I am not interested in also. Then what is this all of a sudden? We had a very nice piece of at home. Now yesterday your behavior was completely questionable. Then he started again and again. He told, I have to ask a favor from you. She asked, anything you ask, I am ready. I need peace of mind. I need peace at home. Then he told, you know that our mansion is very big, very rich. You know our treasure. Inside there's so much of value. So why don't you take the leadership here and run the house? I thought of going and renounce the house and go and meditate. He told, what is this? What do you mean by renouncing? What do you mean by meditation? So slowly he mentioned that for the full-time meditation, full-time renouncing is necessary. Then she told, I was not aware that you are in such a this thing. But he told, I am sorry, I kept it to myself. But now I understand properly, I have to renounce and meditate. Then she told, can female also meditate? Then he told me, yes, no problem. Can female also renounce? Yes, no problem. Then what about renouncing both of us? And then he was happy. He told, announced to people, those who wish, come and take everything. we are going to renounce. So, but anyway, that particular husband had a doubt whether that lady was good enough for this renounced life. Because the renounced life is how much you have to put up with, and it is go back to the basic needs. And she was very contented and she told, anything I can do. And the husband remained with the Buddha, the wife went far away. And what happened was, within a very short time, she went to the first, second, third and fourth jnana, that means the culmination of the practice. And she was so happy, and she wanted to pay respect to the Buddha and tell, I am happy. Her husband, the ex-husband, came to know by that time that she was a nun. She came back, he thought it's utter failure. That is why she came back, and she had no any chance to understand Dhamma. Dhamma is very profound. And therefore he underestimated. And anyway, being that husband is still a lay person, renounced, she was a nun, bhikkhuni, and he pay respect and ask some questions. That is just to cross-check whether she has got anything. So if you wish, you can understand very interesting, very wise questions and very wise answers are there. I am reducing the narration to the feelings. And please, after getting excuse, permission, ask, dear sister, what is the pain and pleasure of pleasurable feeling? You see the question? What is the pain and pleasure of the pleasurable feeling? She told, when and where pleasurable feeling is coming and thriving, it is pleasure. When and where the pleasurable feeling is leaving, it is a pain. And you can't understand because you have so much of greedy feeling to the pleasurable feeling. Even if it is going to leave unpleasurable backlog, you don't feel it. Because your mind is bewildered. You're always happy with the pleasurable feeling. So therefore, the question is valid. Answer also still enlightening. She told, when and where the pleasurable, oncoming pleasurable feeling and its prevalence is a pleasure. When it is leaving, if you are really mindful, you can understand it is leaving unpleasant background. And you can't understand it because you are always hugging and welcoming the pleasure. So therefore you never expect any kind of a unpleasurable, the tail end of this. And the next question, what is the pain and pleasure of the painful feeling? And it is easy to think about the first one. When and where the unpleasure, painful feeling arising, it is pain. When and where it is thriving, it is pain, but it is leaving some pleasurable feeling. But you never understand it because so much of hatred in your mind. You don't like pleasurable feeling. So therefore, even though it is going to leave a sweet memory, you never see, your mind is not ready to see because you have something negative towards the painful feeling. So that, unless otherwise such a meditated person, who can at least pose this question? No one. No one thinks. We think pleasure is pleasure, pain is pain. So therefore we never ready to see the beginning, the middle and end of the pleasurable feeling, never ready to see the beginning, the middle and the end of the painful feeling. So invitation of the Buddha is look at it as if a second person. When the pain happens, see how much it is torturing, burning, and beyond control, and you become crushed to the down earth. And if you maintain, and you can see it come up to a peak, and then ceases to exist. When and where that is ceases to exist, is a leaving kind of a pleasure. Unless otherwise you are mindful to the whole setup, whole set of beginning, the middle and the end, you never see such a pleasurable situation. Exactly the pain, pleasure, even though you are hugging, you are welcoming and you are doing anything, each and every pleasure leaving you, definitely leaving with the pain. So this itself is really an eye-opener. But this is not the crux of the teaching. And he is asking, what is the pain and pleasure of the no pain, no pleasure situation? So that is a new subject. Because people, those who are searching about behind the pleasure principle, they have never seen grey area. They see the pure pleasure, pure pain, too extreme. Our mind is always with duality. Never see. If I have to cite an example, if you have to ask the in-breath and out-breath, you will see the in-breath, you will see the out-breath. But if you have to see right from the beginning of the in-breath, through the middle, that is gushing through your nostrils, and ceases to exist, of the in-breath, and then before starting the out-breath, there is a gap. And that gap indicates end of the in-breath and beginning of the out-breath. That whatever the effort you are going to do, you can't feel it. Only you can understand there is a gap, there is a black hole, that's a black box. Just like in your eye, there's a dark spot, that this area is not sensitive to light. Exactly the same way, in between and out breath, in between there's a gap. But unless otherwise you are mindful, you may live 120 years on this earth. But you never see in between gap. Exactly the way, unless otherwise you see the beginning, the middle and the end of the in-breath, pleasurable feeling and painful feeling, you never see how the pain is changing into the pleasure, how the pleasure is changing into the pain. That area is a grey. That according to the Buddhist nomenclature, it says no pain, no pleasure. And now, first and foremost is understanding it. The second is question. Dear sister, what is the pain and pleasure of no pain, no pleasure situation? And her answer, if you know it, it's a pleasure. If you do not know, it's a pain. If you are aware of it, under the light of mindfulness, it's a huge pleasure. Because you have not seen that. That is your subconscious. You only see the tip of the iceberg. Whenever you see no pain, no pleasure, that is always lying between pain and pleasure. So the day you understand it, you will see that no pain, no pleasure situation is the middle part. Through that only the meditation is developing. So therefore your practice is not only to understand the pain and pleasure, but to get rid of them and come back to the center. So therefore you must have fair understanding first and foremost. Second thing, you have to experience under your very nose and see how much our mind is blindly chasing behind the pleasure. And develop kind of underlying tendency to unquestionable desire. And when and where the pain happens, it is right from the beginning the hate starts. So you have no any peace of mind to understand the beginning, the middle and the end of the pain. So therefore never you see the middle between. So the moment you understand the middle, you can see during that period, between the pain and pleasure, the sandwich area that is called no pain, no pleasure, more than 80% of our day we are in it. But we hate it. We call it as a boredom. We call it as a monotony. We call it as a pale. We call it as a dramatic. So therefore our mind is searching some or the other thing in order to keep ourselves busy. Not to go into this no pain, no pleasure. So therefore you have to have a specific laboratory where you have to eliminate pleasurable moments, eliminate the painful moments, and then try to understand the time, and there only you will see only very little of pain, only very little of pleasure, but in between no pain, no pleasure is the most of the time we have. We consider this is as something boredom, something as monotony. So that is why we are chasing behind our hobbies and planning picnics and radios and telephones and novels and telephone calls, all the kind of thing. And we call that is richness. We are very rich. We have so much of muck to fill in between the no pain, no pleasure situation. If it is not so, we feel we are desperately poor. So understanding the no pain, no pleasure, this sister says if you understand it's a pleasure, if you do not understand, if you do not experience, it's a pain. So first and foremost, many people understand that in sitting meditation. That means if you are labeling with pain as pain, pleasure as pleasure, huge area you find there is no label you can fit into. That is one of the advantage in the labeling. Whenever you have a pain, note it as pain. Whenever you have the pleasure, note it as pleasure. And you find there's a huge area, there is no label is fitting. So ultimately you get bewildered. You will get mixed up with. And when that is happening, you will understand unaccountable area is the majority. And the day you understand that in sitting, walking meditation, the mindfulness is going to become diversified. Mindfulness is going to grow with branches and flowers and fruits and kind of thing. The moment you're going to see that no pain, no pleasure in your day-to-day activities, you will understand the value of sitting meditation and the walking meditation because it is happening in a gradual way. But if you have any kind of past experiences from the past life or whatever it may be, some people understand no pain, no pleasure right from the beginning, from the day-to-day activities. That's the point you get quick ideas, quick discoveries, and the huge area you find you at the midst of all the activities, you are self-conscious. You find you are free. You are in the present, you are in the no pain, no pleasure. So therefore it is not limited to the meditation, in the sitting or in the walking, but even it is in the day-to-day activities, in the meditation center or at home. But it's the gradual process is in sitting first, then walking, and then day-to-day activities in the center, and then go out at the household. So leave it aside, that is something practical. So I have to give some little more from this dialogue. And then the sister, she says, as far as we have the desire for pleasurable feeling, we never see the beginning, the middle, or the end of the pleasurable feeling. As far as we have the hatred feeling for the pain, we never see the beginning, the middle, and the end. Moment you have developed certain amount of mindfulness, or mediocre light of mindfulness, you are bound to see no pain, no pleasure. And she says, the no pain, no pleasure is counterpart with the ignorance. If you are more ignorant, you will never see it. If you have a kind of a understanding, quick wit, against the grain kind of understanding, radical reflection, then you will come to know no pain, no pleasure is always with the counterpart, with the ignorance. So you have to do away with that. Then you will see the ignorance is counterpart with the knowledge. So that relationship is rather radical because we think ignorance and knowledge is polar apart. That the Buddha says, or this literature says, understanding your very ignorance is the knowledge. There is nothing else crystallized, prism shape, or any condensed kind of knowledge. Knowledge means to understand how ignorant am I. How desirous am I? How avoiding am I? So that means your knowledge is understanding of your weaknesses, understanding of mistakes, understanding your past misdeeds, and not to get shaken, not to get biased. You have to know ignorance is counterpart with the knowledge. The moment you develop knowledge, it's liberating. That means not to develop tension. Main thing is not to worry, even you see pain, even if you see mistakes, even you do not see no pain, no pleasure, that you have to understand our ignorance is working in such a mechanism always to hide it, never to expose it. So you must have kind of a desire or kind of a approach, kind of a radical approach. Don't lose your mistakes. They are the real messengers. They are the real teachers. They are the real eye-openers. They are very radical. So, more and more if you are attentive to your own mistakes, then you will be sympathetic to yourself. Otherwise you are cursing, telling one or the other thing, whatever the training I am going to do, whatever the restrainment I am going to do, so much of weaknesses are there. I can't keep the mindfulness intact. I can't keep in breath and out breath in continuous. I can't keep walking meditation like the neighbor. I can't keep my day-to-day activities. I can't keep my way of life. Every time you find it is sour in taste. But if you put the mindfulness, not only the mindfulness, this correct approach, that is called radical reflection. That is called against the grain. When you are going to see each and every mistake is human. Understanding that very mistake is divine. Not to shake and is to liberate. But if you are going to see only the mistake and going to talk all the time the mistake, for me, I try to do away with that kind of people as much as possible. I don't wish to see them. Because they are contagious. It is cancerous. Not only for them, even for the, it appears like incompassionate, but one has to take one's own peace of mind. And that is why when I am working in the company as a layperson, I was with the Norwegian person, he says, listen to the news, see pictures, listen to the television, radio. Every time they are reporting bad things. Out of the old films they have prepared in the world, how many tragedies and how many comedies? More than 50% tragedies. We are so happy to see killing. We are so happy to see all the crimes. And then we blackguard the fellow who directed the film. They are nasty fellows that always 30 things are bringing, and you are the very person opening the channel and looking with open mouth. And then criticizing. So you can understand our tendency is asking suffering, inviting sourness. So no one can, no magic formula, no blessing, no second person can come and eradicate it. Unless otherwise you know how to see the silver light in the dark cloud. If you only to see the dark side of the cloud and not to see the silver line, only say you have to say sorry. So as far as the Vedana is concerned, if you know the first truth, suffering is suffering, whenever the pain arises, my teacher, Upandita, he told, it is considered this as a good woman. Now mindfulness is definitely within yourself. Never go away. Even you ask them to go away, it will never go. That is a kind of a blessing. And Mahasi Sayadaw, his teacher, he says each and every understanding happens after the pain. So if you are cutting off the pain halfway, that means you are to do away with understanding. So you have to wait till the pain ceases to exist. So therefore, if you are having more and more pain, you have more and more chances to see the cessation of the pain, that is the Nibbana. So halfway you are going to apply balm or anesthesia or going to take painkillers, you are the person get killed. Pain never get killed. Pain never get killed. It is the nature. It's the prevailing thing in the world. You are the very person. So therefore you have to understand the pain each and every time coming and tap on your door. Hey, I came to teach you the Dhamma. But you say, not now, come tomorrow. You never say, you are never happy to invite the pain. You think it represents something bad. He represents it as I am immoral, I am misfortunate, other people are treating me bad. So that is the way. The when and where, if you know how to make use the pain, for my simple example is, it is like how to make compost. You are making compost, all the thrown away material. If you know how to mix it, ultimately you will end up with the best carbonic fertilizer. We don't call fertilizer, we call manure, well balanced. Everything happens coming out of the thrown away thing. So every mistake, every painful thing, every unbecoming thing indicates a good source, good raw material for a balanced compost. For the compost, sunlight is very important. You have to expose, mix it and put again and again to the sunlight. Under the mindfulness, under the meditation, mindfulness is the sunlight. You have to accumulate all the bad things, put under the sunlight, ultimately all the pathogenic bacteria will die off, all the saprophytic bacteria will remain and end up with a nice compost. So therefore, the day you start to love pain, you are not sadistic, but you are loving arising pain. You are not creating pain. Make you very sharp. You are not inflicting pain. What you are doing is, the way, according to the way of your life, pain comes. When and where happens, don't put this negative or hateful approach. Try to see as much as possible with the pleasant mind, and ultimately you will see when the painful pain is disappearing, kind of a pleasure happens. So therefore, you know then onward how to make the pleasure out of pain. So this is the way, amidst of all the other people complaining about the pain and discouragement and all the kind of thing, the yogi try as much as possible to be more mindful and understand the pain from the beginning through the middle to the end. Ultimately you find your complaints will be slowly reducing. When and where you are to derive pleasure out of pain, you gain a walkover without defeating someone. Your pleasure is coming out of not with putting someone down. It is not to defeat something, it's a walkover. So therefore you see, that is religious, that is spiritual. That is only by the tactic you can earn it. So that tactic is already embedded, already endowed as and when you born to this life. But we don't know the mechanism. We don't know the formula. We think the pleasure is something outwardly, and pain, whenever happens, we reject it. Ultimately, we are dying with the same set of mind. So whenever you come to know the A to Z of Vedana, the feeling, you understand it is nothing but your approach, nothing but your outlook, nothing but your reflection, nothing but your viewpoint that decides whether pain or pleasure. So that will make a more new approach, a new welcoming to the next moment, whether it's a pain or pleasure. You'll be happy to welcome it, happy to receive it, without the backlog of the last moment. Otherwise, you are always carrying this discouraged, defeated kind of a backlog, and therefore you are never fresh to see the arising in-breath, arising out-breath, arising pain, arising hatred, arising desire, anything. Anything when it is arising, it is teaching you Dhamma. So therefore, feeling also very good highway, avenue to understand the truth of suffering, unless otherwise, it is a hell of a source for suffering. The very thing, if you understand, is a source of pleasure, source of knowledge, source of understanding. So therefore, in the teaching of the Buddha, he has taken enough time to understand, teach, and convince others to how to study how to contemplate and how to realize the pain under one's very nose. So I thought of taking a little time tomorrow also to proceed it further and then give more landscape regarding feeling. And being the time is up for the day, I am going to wind up the today's talk. Thank you very much for listening. So we are going to take time to share merits with seen and unseen everyone, as well as sharing with our relatives. And out of this all skillfulness and merits, may we remember our main task and straightening our views towards that. With that idea, we are going to recite the chanting.